All right. Well, welcome to another episode of ClickPod. My name's Matt. I have a wonderful guest today, Jen, on our team. She's one of our long haulers, as we call them, people that have been with ClickBid for a really long time, seen a lot of stuff, been asked to jump in on crazy assignments. And so I think today is, a good opportunity for us to just talk about non-technical stuff, share some stories, speak from experience, and hopefully give some nonprofits some ideas as we build, better events. So welcome, Jen.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So I have in my notes that it says, shut up, Matt, and let Jen talk. Maybe just a little bit of background on, when you got started, what maybe your first couple of months were like, just some of the newness, when it was, and that kind of stuff. Just a little background.
I started in 2013. The software looked a lot different back then. I remember more of like a red tone at the very beginning. It was there was a few of us all learning different terms. I hadn't been to that many nonprofit events and charitable events, so even some of the terminology was a little bit, a learning curve, as well as learning how the software worked and how to show people how to use the software.
So, wow. Yeah, it'll be 13 years this year. And we've added quite a few faces since then. I want to focus on is talking about the actual fundraising event, because I think something you have a unique perspective on is having been to just about every possible type of event ever created and just, sharing some stories. When you've gone to events, one of the hardest parts of an event is the check-in event. I'm going to give you a little bit of time here. I'm looking for a story that might kind of jump out at you where you were at an event and it's, from the perspective of something that went really well. And when you walked away from that experience thinking, man, if everybody did it this way, this would be this would just make everybody's life easier. So has anything come to mind from any of those experiences?
I think just some of the tools that we've implemented most recently, being able to change their paddle number on the way in, not having them pre-printed with their really smooth, everybody, that's their first impression. That's the most important thing that people want. Their people an easy access into the event and an easy exit, and send them on their way with a text message with their paddle number, just in case they put it down, their table number, their name, and just really personalize that. I think that really has been the events I've been to in the past few months. It's really made everything a lot smoother, a lot easier. When people have it pre-printed and with their name on it and it's at the table, and then somebody doesn't show up or they have a guest that changes or, things like that. Someone's running to the table, printing them up on the side. We've been through a lot of those different things, but I think the newness of being able to change their paddle number and get them in the door as fast as possible is great.
Yeah. You've had you've done a lot of events with volunteers. What's it like working with a volunteer at an event who, person walks in half an hour before the event starts. They don't know anything about anything that's going on. What does that look like? Walk me through one of those stories.
Yeah, I do like to encourage the organizations to maybe share some videos or some training before the event and then have a training, before the guests start arriving. And that way they have a little bit of a comfort with how easy the check-in is with ClickBid. And they, even if they're calm and they're not anxious about anything, then they're going to pass that along to the guests on their way in. They're new to mobile bidding or that kind of thing. But it works well to just get everybody in the group and just say, this is what you need to do. Hopefully the organization has shared with them what they want them to say, like their next direction. But it works well to have everyone maybe behind me or looking at a tablet and just saying, this, stay up here, just stay in bid or look up. That's all you need to do. You don't need to go down here. And training people, the concierge bidding too, is what's helpful if you're adding quantity items, raffles, games, wine pools, mulligans, things like that. Easy to show them that, and that every name or every bidder number or every item and item number shows up in there. So it's not a hard process for them to learn.
It's rinse and repeat. Type in a name, sum of a name, click on their name, confirm their phone number and bidder number if they have a paddle, and then tell them they get a text message. And so Yeah, I mean, when you work with a volunteer, you ever had that experience where you're standing there and this complete stranger walks up because you're not from that area, and everybody at the table is like, "Oh, hey, so and so," and they're shaking hands and they're talking about whatever, soccer or something like that. I mean, does that ever happen at your events?
It's to me personally a lot, especially doing local ones in the area. But yes, yes, definitely.
I would argue that that's a really strong reason to have volunteers. If we can get a volunteer past the technical challenges, because like you said, I mean, it's like you can just shake a hand, you can, they'll forgive maybe hey, hold on, I just got to type this new tech thing in. And it's, they're just small talking versus, a high schooler that walks in and all they want to do is just, rinse and repeat, push them through, get them through, that kind of stuff. To me, it's better when you have that volunteer base helping out.
Absolutely. I agree. I agree.
Yeah. And then hopefully it hasn't happened where somebody just pushes back from the table of volunteering and says, I don't understand this. I'm not doing it anymore. You know, hopefully we don't have that kind of experience.
No, I have never really had that. Maybe it's designed to be so simple, and it really is. Once they check themselves in as a test or do a couple people, they much more comfortable.
I mean, let's fast forward. Obviously there's so much stuff that happens from the time that you check somebody in and then the event happens, the silent auction, all that, and then you get to the end. But again, the first and the last thing, the checkout experience. What is your recipe when dealing with a nonprofit for checkout?
It's everyone does it a little bit differently. It's nice when they're super organized. They designate the same checkout person with the same runner. You can't steal somebody else's runner, and they write everything down, and then you write the numbers down, they go grab them and bring them back. And then you can't help the next person until, you know, that transaction is happened. But I think it's organization is key. Some people have all the items in numerical order. Some people grab the items during the live and the paddle raise and have them already assigned, in a group with items. And, some just have them on certain tables, and we have that, table option. You can find them, say, this is a certificate only. Don't go running around the room. It's right in the folder in front of you. So there's a lot of things that help checkout be smoother. And I think organization for check-in and checkout is always key.
Yeah, you mentioned the runner. I think that cannot be overstated. Checking someone out takes, search for the last name, tap on the checkout. Would you like to use your card on file? Great. Or they walk up and they say, I've already checked out. Here's my items. And they will show you their phone. Yeah, that's like, okay. It's like, this is the only place it ever is going to exist is if you leave this page, it's it, you know, but, and then of course, I mean, even having just like sticky notes, little post-its where you can write down, 125, 215, 312. But then for whatever reason, it's almost like they've got to do like the runner has to do like Ninja Warrior something because when they disappear to go get the items, like I don't they're gone for like 20, it feels like 20 minutes. Like where did this person go?
And the guest is just staring at you going,
Yeah, yeah.
have a good time tonight.
Yeah. I guess I should go get these items. And so the you know, it, the nonprofit of course panics a little bit to get all these volunteers to check people out. So you have 3 or 4 people lined up to check people out. You have one runner. It's like this poor person. It's just herding cats sometimes.
Yeah, I'd say, that it is very fast and very quick, but when no one wants a line for checkout either, a big long line and waiting one at a time, they want to just, disperse and get as many, if you as many volunteers as possible is always helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, and the running is, and people I think would be happy to do the running because that's such a non-technical thing. I mean, it's basically go get the item and I don't have to worry about typing something, so it's quite a bit more comfortable. It reminds me of a story again. I've got all these crazy useless stories rattling around up here. So I was at an event and I remember it was like 5 minutes before auction close. And it seems like there's always somebody like in a movie theater, at a drive-in. If the auction closes at 8 o'clock in 1 second, somebody is standing there ready to check out.
Mhm.
It's inevitable. And the one challenge with volunteers is they always they're everywhere. Like, okay, we need you to be here at 8 o'clock because we know people are going to want to check out. And if the first person comes here and can't get checked out, then inevitably we're just going to start backing up because somebody will inevitably ask a really complex question. I'm checking out my items. Hey, can I leave this item here tonight? Or can I get somebody to help me carry this out to my car or something? And even as a paid ClickBid representative to be there, I can't answer that question. So I have to go find somebody. And then inevitably in this case, that person was across the entire venue.
Mhm.
Does that does that check out with some of your experiences?
Yes, again, the more organized, they'll flip the table from check-in to check-out. They'll have their volunteers there at a certain time, and they're all, they're usually very reliable and ready to go, because they've been instructed to do so. A lot of times I'll get the phone number of the decision maker and, just shoot them a quick text. Is there anything I can do, or what do you think? Or put notes in my phone and talk to them when they do come back over.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Sometimes I'm have an earpiece too, which that is really it's really high level. I don't need to have that access to all the run of show and stuff like that, but then they can reach me when they need me for something.
I haven't had that often, but yeah, when it is, it's super handy. You're right. Because, it's not something, you prep for it and there's only so many answers you can offer as, you can answer anything technical software related, but then it's some logistical question and you're
Mhm.
like, I don't know what to do. But yeah,
The
so
one that gets me is, just check them out and let them go grab their own items, especially at the end of an evening with, cocktails included and, "I swear I won this one," that kind of thing.
with like jewelry and things, the simple small things that can just not maliciously, but they can just fall off a table and
Mhm.
it's like everybody's losing their minds. So, the other busy kind of high energy time is the paddle raise in the live auction. I'm curious what your take is. Have you done events? Sometimes questions that have come up in the past is, can we do a paddle raise from the phone instead of a paddle raise? Because then we don't have to hand out paddles. What's your opinion about something like that?
I think I've both, at certain events where everyone is on their phones anyway, like a really tight-knit group and, maybe a little bit younger. I've seen pull out the phones and make that thermometer rise work, but I would say more often than not, people prefer the paddles. They just want that peer pressure. It is that paddle is an extra step at check-in, but I would say more often than not, people are still using paddles. Or, you know, if they're not making a big deal of the appeal display and their thermometer screen, just having a QR code for people to scan and donate and stuff like that, where it's not as more of a fund a need or a mission purpose. It's, if you didn't win anything and you'd like to make a donation,
Yeah, I completely agree. Especially as a tech, I mean, that's my background is software, software, software. Software solves every problem, but I still, have that paddle, let people put it up in the air. I mean, there's just something about that. Not that you're trying to show off, but at the same time, it's like, yes, I'm participating. I'm standing behind the charity. There's something really great about that. Another question, auctioneer or no auctioneer?
I would say a good auctioneer is very important. Very important. They know how to read the room. I think, you know, with a live auction item or the paddle raise, I think it's really helpful.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I still to this day, 20 some years into this business, I have no idea how they charge for what they do, but I'm sure there's some percentage base, but to me, it wouldn't even matter because, I've seen one of my, well, I won't name names because I don't want to play favorites, but some of the auctioneers, they do this. He does this one thing where it's like this rapid fire certificates thing where it's like $25
Mhm.
gift cards and it's just one after another. And, I'll be clerking it and I know that these are like $25 gift cards and he's selling them for 70, $80. He just calls out a person's name and says, 125, thank you, 75 bucks. And I'm like, does that person realize they just gave $75 for a $25 gift card? We never get pushback. We never get, I mean, it's like everybody gets it. It's the auctioneer knows how to like, I don't know, get people to just separate themselves from their money at these events and paddle raises, I'm really tempted to get one of my favorites to try and go to an event that I have locally. It's our small school. parents, it's a school that it works really hard to get the funding they do get. I tell you, an auctioneer could probably get us another 10, 15, $20,000 and just like pure magic. I don't know how they do it. It's like some voodoo that they do before they get to the event and then it just works. I don't know, but yeah, they're a rare breed.
Once in a while you have a board member that's very charismatic and has, dabbled in it before, or, a radio personality or something, but a good auctioneer really makes a big difference.
Yeah, I always kind of cringe a little bit when somebody says, "Well, John from the board, boy, he's really charismatic." And you're like, "Oh boy." Yeah, that's not the job description of an auctioneer is charisma. I mean, that's like an expected, like, you can talk. Like that's kind of a given. But yeah, so that I don't know why I always feel very strongly about putting that out there to nonprofits. I just think that makes such a huge difference. And, but and it's not even a technical thing. That's something else I'd ask, maybe some feedback from you on if I present this question is the make or break of an event. When you're at an event and you have to do this, what I call diving catch, like at 7:35 and the auction's closing at 8:30 and you're like, I think something might be not set up right. And you have to go and fix something, or you know what, I just don't think this is this or that. And you do this kind of thing that keeps the event from tipping over or creating a dramatic something or other. How often is it tech related and how often is it logistics or just personality? Like, what's your experience there?
I would say, our account management team does such a good job of reviewing the events for them and having them as prepped as possible. And, I always take a look at everything too when I get there, just in case some things have changed, or, they've updated some things or added items and didn't add a closing time and things like that. But I think for the most part, they're prepped for success. And so not that many technical issues. It probably more people or logistics.
Honestly, something, if I can brag about you a little bit, we had an event. I'll tell the story. We had an event in Florida. It was early days of ClickBid. We had just released a brand new edition of the platform and technical thing, but our database had some poorly optimized features. And so once we did this big event for, I think it was realtors or something like that. It was an association more than anything. It was at the Orlando Conference Center. And so, there were probably 1,000 people and we were, running and running. And then all of a sudden it just, the server just locked up. And
I think it was like uh, double duplicates, triples of how many people were in there way too many times. It was so many people. I think I remember.
yeah, and what's interesting about data is that when it's not optimized, you can get this cascading snowball effect of you press a button and nothing happens. So you press the button again, still nothing happens. Then you press it. Every time, every time pressing it, you're starting a new request, and it's like that's just making it worse. I remember sitting in this building here in Michigan, and I knew you and Dan were in Florida, and I'm like, I know this is not going to be fixed. And like, but how do I tell Jen? You have to tell these people that this is not going to work. Now, for anybody listening, this was many years ago. Much experience has happened since
Many,
then.
many.
Yeah, yeah. So, but I think the thing that I would brag about is okay, the event had to switch and pivot, and we went to paper and all this other stuff. And both you and Dan were just troopers. I mean, you did everything. I mean, you were there, the last people there, the nonprofit. They actually walked away happy with. I mean, they might have hated the tech, which would have been understandable, but they loved that you guys were there. And I just remember thinking, this is out of everything that happened, that is the thing they'll probably remember. I mean, they'll laugh about the tech at some point, not now, but they'll just be like, but man, I'll tell you what, Jen and Dan, like, they just sucked it up. They did the work. They handed out paper. They reconciled. They just made sure that when everybody walked away from the conference center, it was in the best shape it could be in. And that's something I've always prided ClickBit on, not because it's something I did or, I'm not bragging about me, definitely not me. But I've seen it in everybody at the company where they just, it's like you get it. The work we do is so valuable. Experience in sales, account management, software development, operations, just understanding that passion is so important. Yeah, and I don't even know if I'm asking you how to respond to it, but I think maybe the question is, what does it feel like to work with these just vast array of nonprofits?
I really enjoy it. I obviously, just learning all about their whys. It's interesting to learn everything about the organization. It's wonderful to see their passion, but also all of the guests in attendance, they're there to support and make it a better place or raise more funds, might raise more research dollars, things like that. It's really cool.
Yeah. Yes. And and especially when they do the appeal and they do one of those. I mean, have you ever cried at an event?
Oh, sure. Yeah, anytime. Yeah, the heartwarming tug at your heartstrings video before they ask you for money for sure. Great. It's a great idea.
Yeah. It actually gets your wallet out sometimes, like,
Yep,
okay, here we go.
absolutely.
Yeah, it's been a cool experience. I know I've heard that from a lot of different people at the company and that have, they're like, well, I watched this video and I was just there to support something. And I'm like, I got, like, man, that was pretty compelling. And so I just gave, and it's pretty cool. I mean, we could be designing bumpers on cars and, supporting, tax software for customers, but the work we do is pretty awesome. And I think,
Sure is.
yeah, there's a real dollar amount of contribution that you've made in this whole thing, which is undeniable. So, well, I really appreciate you jumping on here. I know it's not, your comfort zone to do this, but I would encourage anybody to, reach out to Jen, questions, anything like that. I mean, she's always willing to throw some ideas, some inspiration for events. I'm volunteering that for you, um, but anyway, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me.